Hello, welcome to CarCast. I'm Matt, the Motorator, DeAndrew here with Bill Goldberg. It's been a crazy travel week or two, I think, for both of us, but I don't know. It just seems like it's kind of a whirlwind. Actually, this past week, the podcast that I did with Alistair, I put it up on Friday instead of Monday because I didn't know what day of the week it was. So you guys got it a little bit early, but I was literally going, we need to record this so I could post it. And he was looking at me weird, and I go, and then I realized after I didn't even realize till Sunday. I was like, oh, I posted a show that was supposed to go up on Monday instead of Friday. And I was like, why did we rush to get that done? I just had no clue what day it was.
I didn't even post a new episode of Goldberg's Garage last week. It's been travel's been hell. It's like I'm back in the wrestling world. I mean, I'll go into it in a minute, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm less than zero in the gas tank area right now, but and I'm trying to compile some stuff for Friday's show as I leave tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. So, yeah, hopefully everybody understands, and probably in a week or two we'll get things back in order. But it's been absolutely hectic to say the least.
Well, we're going to do a few things that we've done in the past week or two. Before we get started, let me tell you guys about Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at a weekly prize and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with over 150 different slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. Yeah, so you're neck deep in trying to do the Goldberg's Garage stuff and develop a TV show, and you realize back when you're doing that kind of full time, the schedule becomes, like you said, kind of nutty, almost like the travel schedule for wrestling. The Goldberg's Garage, when you started it on the property and doing the cars you had, you're like, it's great. I can walk out of my kitchen to the garage. But now that you're working on TV show stuff, it's going to require guests and production, more production and travel. But it's different. I know you like it, but also you realize you kind of forget, like, oh, this is a lot of work again.
Okay, put that to the side.
Yeah.
And I'm leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Boulder to watch CU play North Dakota State.
Okay.
As of right now, we're coming back Friday, but now I have to change it because there's a company called One Championship, who's basically the UFC of the Asian market. They'll be in town in Denver on Friday, and I'm training with one of their fighters. Oh, by the way, I haven't trained Muay Thai in 4 years. And then I'm taking him out to dinner at my brother's restaurant, and then we leave and come back here. So, yeah, it's not just the car stuff. It's not just my son. It's more
Yeah.
PR stuff, but I mean, it's all good stuff. At the end of the day, if I was 25 years old, it'd be great. It'd be fun. But right now it's just laborious and getting from point A to point B. I stopped through Denver yesterday on the way back here, and I realized I should have just stayed in Denver.
Yeah.
But I don't want Wanda to have to get up at 5 o'clock, catch a 5 o'clock flight by herself. So, I'm a glutton for punishment. That's all. I'm not going to complain. Let's get into the Ford commercial.
When you get back into the Muay Thai stuff, even just temporarily, do not break anything. Do not break a toe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, man.
Like I know it's tough to hold back, but you're not competing for anything. Do not break a toe.
I know.
And if you guys remember from a couple of years ago, we were referencing, like, you were training in the gym. Maybe it was even out here. You had the gym out here, kick in the back, broke a toe. And then I think you took the time off your first day back in, going, hey, let's see how we're doing. Broke it again, hit the shoulder. Just you don't. I mean, it's funny when you look at it now, but
it's hilarious, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's funnier than shit. I mean, in my quest to look in my quest to perform as well as humanly possible, no matter at what age, unfortunately, along the way, I destroy myself. But it is what it is, man. Um, I try to hold myself in high standard in anything that I do, even in unrealistic situation. And you know what? That's what we see ourselves. That's where we find ourselves right now. But it's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah. How's Gage doing?
He's doing well. It's tough. I mean, he eats shit every day, right? I mean, it's the life of a walk-on freshman football player. But he's learning. Every day is an opportunity to get better, an opportunity to get experience. So it's awesome, man. He's having a great time. First game's tomorrow night. So we're going to see what the season holds and see how well they do. And I'm expecting him to have an emotional roller coaster all year. So I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what else to expect.
I'm sure he'll be nervous going into it first game tomorrow, but you'll start to settle a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, and then there's the travel, and then there's, I have a new TV show. And so, I mean, it's just, it's juggling wonderful opportunities. So like I said, I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan, because in 10 minutes, I won't have those opportunities. So you got to take it for what it is and make the best of it.
Yeah. And there's a lot coming up, as you guys can imagine, in this part of the year. There's all sorts of events. We have the SEMA show that's going to be coming up there. I don't have the full schedule of things that I'm going to be doing, or any of us. It sounds like you've got another event. So I don't know that you're going to make it to SEMA.
Well, I can tell you 1,000% right now, I'm not making it to SEMA.
Okay.
I'm going to be inducted in the Georgia-Florida Football Hall of Fame, the Georgia-Florida weekend, and at the coin toss. We'll be at the coin toss. We're honoring captains, and Gage and I and Wanda will be there. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm quite honored to be in the Hall of Fame with such unbelievable athletes in the past, and it's going to be a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. That's what happens when you get old.
People start looking back on your career going, hey, what did you do? Did you do something good? If so, congratulations. Let's take a look at it.
Hey, it's the biggest college football game of the year. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Other than the fact that we got to get in and get out in a short period of time and get Gage back. So we'll probably have to leave it in the third quarter. I mean, it's just one of those things, man. You do what you got to do.
Well, SEMA's coming up, and then after that, LA Auto Show is going to be coming up. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of stuff that we're going to cover on this podcast and the version with Edmunds as well. Starting to get some stuff done on the Ford Lightning to get it over in the real truck booth at SEMA. We're trying to fit, I don't want to say we're trying to fit a body kit on there, but our friends at Air Design had developed like some OE looking fender flares, not the big off-road fender flares, more of like the black plastic fender flares, just a little something extra, because when we changed the wheels and tires, they were a wider package. But the kit they have is for a regular F-150, and there are subtle differences between the Lightning and the F-150 for aerodynamics, for wind noise, for a handful of things, that they look the same, but they're really not. So when we went to go fit them on, we knew this going in. When we went to go fit them on, just little curves and indentions and stuff in the sheet metal don't match up with the plastic pieces. So we were thinking, maybe apply a little heat, and might have to cut a few pieces and, trim it up to make it work. And we were trying it, and I don't know what's up with the plastic, or just not meant to see that sort of treatment. Trying to heat it with a heat gun, it just ended up like bubbling and melting. It was supposed to soften and stuff. So it's going to take a little more work than we thought. So that's what we're working on right now. If we can get it done, it'll be cool. Meanwhile, the other gear is starting to come in. I'm going to have to start getting that truck together. It should be cool when it's done, but I'm happy that this project isn't nearly as intense as some of the other projects in the past. When we were doing the Mustang Mach 1, There was a lot of carbon fiber stuff. We worked with Anderson Composites to develop that hood that they were selling, fitting the twin turbo kit was the first one. The emissions tested kit from Helion Turbo. And there was just a few things that weren't quite there on, because everything was prototype stuff at the time. So this truck, I think, is a little bit easier. Most of the parts they're new. There's a lot of new things, and we're debuting some stuff in the real truck booth. So we kind of need to rethink like wiring harnesses and some things like that, but nothing too crazy. But anyway, that's what's going on with that truck, and hopefully we'll have a lot more going on to talk about at SEMA and podcasting and stuff like that that's going to happen at SEMA. So while you were gone last week, we started doing recaps of Monterey Car Week. Alistair and I spoke about some of the stuff. He grabbed an interview, a couple of interviews with the CEO of Lamborghini, a short interview with Ford. I posted an interview with Dario Franchitti. I've got another interview with Jim Farley from Ford that's really kind of fun. That'll be coming up soon. But one of the things that kind of stood out, that Adam Carolla and I were walking around at the Quail and the Concept Lawn and Pebble, and what's happening is we spoke a little bit about this. So many more companies are doing, I don't want to say resto mod, but they're doing sort of this singer, if you will, of other makes and models. We spoke here the Evoluto, which is they did the Ferrari 355. We talked about, I think it's called Eccentrica, and they were doing that company was doing a Diablo. And then at the Quail, we saw a Ferrari 550, beautiful long nose 12-cylinder, the car. Mm-hmm. And we went up on it, and behind it, it said Superleggera in the script font. And the Superleggera, you've seen that on old Aston Martins, on the Lamborghini like 350 GT, on the hood, Superleggera. And for us, we're just like, oh, they're just doing their super lightweight version of the vehicles, mm-hmm. right? Maybe aluminum body instead of steel and some things like that. I didn't really know that was a company. It's an Italian Coachworks company. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just something you could apply to the cars when you did that version, when you did the super light version of it. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize they were like a Pininfarina or Bertoni or something like that. They were a company that's been around for a long time. It's like 1926. So we went up to this huge display with this gorgeous white 550 and said Superleggera, and the guy was like, "We are the company. We own the name." In the automotive world, Superleggera. So if you see it today on cars, it's either something they've done as a coach built thing or they've licensed the name. So it was kind of interesting. So these guys are taking the 550 and they are doing a full carbon fiber body, changing the lines just a little bit, making the scoop more aggressive, improve the cooling system by 30%, added a little bit of horsepower. It's still a 5.5 liter V12, it's 503 horsepower. They upgraded the brakes with Brembo. They did a new suspension system that is adaptive suspension, so it's a much more compliant ride, and overall just kind of made the thing nicer and better. Now these are not cheap. We spoke to a couple of these companies that are doing this, and they are about $700,000 to start, plus the price of the car, plus the donor car. Now the 355 that we talked about was kind of the same way. There's another company that does a Porsche 928, and they were like, we're the bargain of all these. We're only about $450,000
for a 928.
Yeah. Well, no, plus the price of the 928. I said,
I get it, but at the end, you get a 928 that's updated.
You get an updated 928. Yes, that's what you get. That's what you get. Uh, let me see if I can find the the video from these guys. But so the car that these guys are doing is gorgeous.
I should hope so.
But yeah, we're kind of talking about real money here. If you get the Superleggera, it's called the Veloci 12, their version. You can see the differences, a little bit different on the front. The hood scoop's different, side gills are different, without changing the three or changing the 550 too much. A lot of changes on the interior, just like in how they redo the leather and cover things on it. It's certainly gorgeous, but you're right. At 500, I'm sorry, at $700,000 and change, plus the price of the car, it's $1 million car. You know, the 355, that's $1 million to do that car. I don't know. What's your take on these reimaginings, if you will?
I think
Gunther Works.
If money wasn't an object, I think it's a great deal. But I want to know how many of these guys are selling. I mean,
they said they're going to make 30.
It looks as if they're picking reasonably priced models to do their upgrades on from the beginning, right? So I mean, I don't know. It's a
yeah.
It's one. Hey, as a car guy, it's wonderful to have options. Are they realistic to the people that are listening to this show? I don't believe so. Are they cool? Yeah, no question. But I don't have a lot of friends that have a cool million to pay, or 400 or 700 to pay for an updated 928, which is one of the worst cars in the history of the world. You know, but like I said, as a car guy, it's great to have options. You know, it really is. Are they realistic, you know, to most of the car world? No, but it's great to have it as an option to be able to go out there and individualize your passion.
Yeah. And some of them are demanding money in the resale market. We've definitely seen Singer, you know, command some money. Roof Porsches, they're commanding money. Gunther Works. So I guess on the Porsche side, they are, like we've talked about the Broncos, the ones done well, Icon Broncos and stuff, definitely demanding money. I saw another one of these companies that did an older Volvo. We talked about that a while back. You're right. That's it's like a nothing car, and then you throw $400,000 onto it, and then you get like a spicier version of that car. And it's carbon fiber body. And it's got a cool engine and stuff, but you're like, I
don't care if the Volvo's made of gold. I don't want it.
Yeah,
it's a Volvo.
It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. I don't know that they've been successful in moving many of these cars, but you think about the business model. The Superleggera guys are going, hey, we do these coach built cars for customers and OE manufacturers. Let's come up with a version of our own with the success of Singer and Gunther Works and other. And they go, we're going to do 30 of these cars. They're about $1 million a piece. That's $30 million in revenue. You know, granted, there's costs involved for sure. It's not all free money, but I don't know. It seems like it's not a terrible way to add on to your coach built business model.
Oh, I mean, like I said, to each his own, right? I mean, all in, I'd rather buy a Ring Brothers car and have a one-on-one, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
So we're just talking money to money. And
well, you know, the thing with these cars, you know, like that 355 we were talking about, and the 928 and this 550, is you have to really love that car, and maybe you have one or two of these. You have to love it, and then go, well, I want the version that's unique and drivable, and you know, because they're a lot of these companies, what they're claiming is we're adding the reliability. The company that does the 355, they've said something like 300 new parts are developed for the engine in the sake of reliability and a little bit added performance. These guys, Superleggera is doing the 355 or is doing the 550. They're saying, yes, we have a lot of parts, not quite as much as on that 355. But there's a lot of changes and improvements that have been made. And the cooling system, things like that have been vastly improved so they can make it a much more drivable car. So I guess if you really love the 350 or the 550, which I think is a gorgeous Ferrari, the front engine cars I've always loved, the 12-cylinder cars I've loved, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to take out some of the maintenance issues of this car and get you something that's pretty unique. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know about for $1 million, but but
I mean,
something."
again, it's great to have options, and excuse me, I don't know a bunch of guys with 550s. They're going to want $1 million cars afterwards. I mean, to each his own.
Yeah, well, they only need 30. They only need 30 customers. They must have actually thought about this as well, going, well, how many people really want this car for this kind of money? And they go, we think we can find 30 people. I'm sure they can
Yeah, I
find
get
30.
that. I get
Yeah.
that business model for sure.
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
looking for 10 for the 928? Because I don't know.
The
I mean, hey, that was
928.
one of the that was one of the fastest car,
Yeah, like top
in its
speed.
time.
And it was expensive. It was really expensive. I don't know, what was 80 something thousand bucks at the day. And I think it looks cool. Now, the flaws with mechanical issues, electrical issues is why that thing's a $30,000 car when, when it,
Now why it's $1 million car, because
yeah.
takes that much to rectify it and then update it and make it cool.
And you know what? In talking with these guys, Adam and I spoke to these guys for a little while, probably sat down with them for about, 20, 30 minutes. And they had to do a lot of work. They did a lot of work on just things you wouldn't even think about, just the roof line, the way the windows seal, the flush glass, how the door handles work, Motec fuel injection system that got rid of everything Porsche under the hood, basically, in terms of electronics and wiring. They had to rebuild the engine and develop new parts for it, new intake manifolds, and just just the packaging, the cooling, the suspension. They really just had to do everything. Probably did a lot more on the 928 for $400,000 than Superleggera does on the 550 for 700,000.
Oh, no question. Well, look at what they originally had to deal with.
Yeah. And it does kind of make you wonder, like, hey, did they pull it off? If they stand behind it and it doesn't have nearly as many issues, every car is going to have a few issues, but if it doesn't nearly have the issues of the original, that's the better buy, actually, if you think about it. All right, we're gonna change gears a little bit. I went to Tennessee and did a quick event with Ford for the Bronco Sport, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, Bronco Sport. This is a revision of the baby Bronco. It's kind of meant to be an entry-level off-roader. When they released it, I did the initial drive-in event, and we went outside of LA off-road, and it was kind of interesting. It was definitely more capable than I thought it was going to be. I just saw it as a dressed-up Ford Escape. It's like Ford Escape is the street version. This is kind of the baby Bronco, the dirt version. And I think they've realized between then and now more about where customers are going with it, what customers can do with it, and figuring out that there are customers that want a capable, fairly inexpensive off-roader, occasional off-roader, but without some of the complexities actually built into the first gen version of this that came out a few years ago. They had the mud on their goat modes. They had off-road and they had mud and they had different terrains and the rock stuff, and it was too complicated. So now they built some of those things into a single switch. You just hit, you hit the street mode, basically, you hit the off-road mode, and it does the things that it needs to do. And that's uh, much simpler to get into. There's a cool feature that they built in as well on the fenders on the sides have this, the front fender has this little finger that sticks out. It sits flush. It's like where the fender, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, but you'll show you, but imagine the fender vent has like a little metal rod in there, and then it pops out. So if you're tying things to the roof of the vehicle, you can tie it down to the fenders that has 150-pound weight capacity. They're spring loaded, so they sit flush when you're not using them. And if you're tying like a kayak or something up under the top, it keeps it off of the body so you don't scratch the body, and gives you a tie down point. It's just kind of a neat little idea that's fairly inexpensive to execute on, and allows to be a little bit more unique, I guess you could say. There's some cool features with it. They have a Sasquatch model now. This version is going to have, like we said, the off-road goodies. It has 29-inch tires, which gives you a little bit more ground clearance overall. It's got the same engines, basically. It's the 1.5 liter 3-cylinder engine at 180 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. And then the 2-liter, due to emissions, actually drops from 250 to 238 horsepower, but it's up in torque, and it increases the towing capacity. So overall performance is going to be a little bit better, although the horsepower is down a little bit on it. Changes on the interior. They've all got useful screens on it. It's got Ford Sync 4, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all of the things that you'd expect to go with it. And some changes in the trim, some changes in the colors that are available. But overall, it's not a bad entry-level off-roader. It's definitely got some interesting points to it. Now, it's got a locker in the rear, so they put it up on we got to drive it, but you drive it up on like we're looking at this thing here, where you drive it up on the rocks, and normally this outer wheel would be spinning, that's floating in the air, and it doesn't in the case. Like, here's the video for it, but we'll show you that this thing will just kind of climb. It keeps the whole thing's very stiff, much stiffer than before. So you can see the rear was up in the air, and now the front tire will be up in the air. And you could do that now with the locking differential. So look, they they made something that's kind of interesting that I think you guys, it's worth taking a look at, I think.
Yeah, it looks very capable, that's for sure. It's still uglier than balls, but it's
yeah, not a fan. Not a fan of it. The Sasquatch has a lot more skid plates and stuff under the front. And they showed us the versions compared to their competitors. It's very thick. It's very functional. We did a little off-roading in it, and you can see how it works. Like if you're going off-road by yourself and you do hit something or bottom out on it, you're not tearing it apart. So you don't have to call on a friend and say, hey, you need to drag me out of here. Tow hooks front and rear that are also attachment points for accessories as well. So they're putting some of that modularity from the big Bronco into the baby Bronco. So that's kind of an interesting feature as well. So they're trying to, in this version, the Sasquatch version, they're building that capability into it. Now, how it is on road on the street, it's the same as before. It's still good. It works well. It's comfortable. But they were really kind of pitching this, and like you were talking about, just sort of a whirlwind of events. This is fly out Wednesday night from LA, land in Tennessee, grab dinner, go to bed, get up early in the morning, drive out to the base of the Rocky Mountains, watch the presentation, get in the vehicle, drive it for 15 minutes, eat lunch, go to the airport, fly home.
A content grab.
Yeah. But that's just kind of how it's been done. Now, fortunately, I don't have to fly out to many of these things because being in LA, we're such a hub for the press fleets and vehicle launches and things like LA Auto Show, and we're close to Monterey for that event for the Car Week. So we have access to a lot of the vehicles out here, which certainly helps out. But besides here in Detroit, that's it. You've got to be in one, or you got to be in LA or Detroit if you're doing this type of stuff. Um,
Not great options as far as living.
yeah, well, I mean, the weather's okay. Here it is. I don't know about
Next
Detroit.
subject. So let's talk about some cool shit.
Yeah.
I was at Warman's for the last 2 days,
Oh yeah, Mark Warman. How's he?
and he's sitting on top of the Mopar world, man. He's
Yeah.
got it absolutely amazes me every single time I go there as to how many Chargers, how many Coronets, how many GTXs, how many Challengers, Cudas. It's unbelievable. I mean, no matter what stage they're in, whether they've just all been blasted and
Yeah.
body worked and primered, and there's probably 100 of them in that stage sitting in a building, and then you got another 100 over here or 50 over here that are in other stages. And I mean, the wait time there is absolutely unbelievable. It's like 2 to 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I actually got to see my 70 CUDA 6-pack car, and yeah, it was about 50 feet up in the air. It wasn't blasted yet. It was completely stripped down. It gave us the ability to check out the amount of rust that's in it. The floors look fine. The rails look fine. There's rust, certain areas where there's going to be rust on a 1970 car. But it's very far away from completion, to
Yeah.
put it mildly. But the reason why I went down there is I shipped my 68 GTX 440 hardtop 4-speed car. It was on site, and for the new TV show, I made a nice little trade with Warman. So I picked up a 1970 Coronet,
Okay.
and we got Savaggio on the video call, and we got to see our chassis for it, fully caged chassis, and he and Warman spoke about the details on the body, what Warman has to do to get the 70 Coronet prepped to go on the chassis. And then we spoke with the guys at DSR, and we're gonna get me on the assembly line and assemble 001 of their DSR 1200.
Okay.
And that's what's going in the car. There'll be a big 671 on there. It's gonna look like an Ed Roth car, right? And it's gonna be so much fun. It's gonna be a big long throw Magnum 6-speed with that hood on it. But imagine a big 671 coming out of that hood.
Oh yeah, with the twin scoop hood, and then all right, then you're gonna have a big like Roots blower out of it. I mean, there's modern versions that are like twin screw versions and stuff, but
Yes, yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, I'm gonna eat cars with that thing. It's gonna be. Well, I mean, my explanation to Warman was this: I have a number of completely original cars, but there's a finite list of things that you should realistically go out and do in that vehicle, and one of them is not blowing tires off of it. I mean, you lose the value of that car exponentially every time you drop that clutch. So I love the B bodies, and I've always wanted something that I could take out and just hammer and have fun with, and not worry about the value of the car. Just take it out and enjoy what it's been built for. So I am ecstatic. I am very excited. It's going to be one hell of a build. And like I said, to get to see Warman stuff out there, I mean, these just one-of-one Barracuda with all the options that it was ordered with, and it looked like a Ronnie Sox car. I mean, there's just so much cool stuff there. Whether you're a Mopar fan or not, it's absolutely unbelievable the amount of stuff that he has there. And I mean, you could spend a day on one car, let alone 500 days on all 500 of the car. I mean, I don't know how many they have, but they have a number of different like yards where the cars are stored.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming. I mean, if you want a Mopar, late 60s or early 70s Mopar, I don't care what it is, they've got it. It's just unreal to see that many cool cars in one spot. You know, the 69 Charger that I have is my favorite car. And they must have had, I don't know, 100 of them out there, of all varying options, no question. I mean, the Coronet that we're trading for is a 318 car. It's not a Super B. It's not a big, you know, it's not the desirable big block. It's an automatic. It's not a numbers car. So it's something that I have no reservations at all chopping up and building what I want out of it. As opposed to the GTX that I have. And it's a original numbers matching car with the build sheet and the Certa card. So
Yeah.
he was the only guy that came to mind that could be the curator for the rest of the life of this vehicle and do it right. And then in return, I get something that puts a huge smile on my face and keeps Nitto in business, sending me tires.
Yeah.
So Holly's jumping on board. Tremec jumped on board.
Nice.
Bear is going to jump on. I mean, it's going to be absolutely awesome. So
yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that. I mean, Holly invited us to the Holly Fest. I guess it's the end of the month in September to bring a car out, you know, do the autocross, do the drag racing, do the burnout competition. We may take the show there, but it's time sensitive, man. It's one thing after another. But it was a great weekend. There'll be a lot of footage on Goldberg's Garage. Ultimately, we filmed, the second episode for the new TV show coming out. So you'd have to wait a little bit for that one. But it was a great trip. And Mark, it's cool to see how they've grown over the past number of years. I mean, I was on his second season.
He's on season 19.
Exactly.
Now. Yeah, he's still filming.
It's unreal.
Graveyard Carz.
Yeah, and the way that they can do it is they've got everything in a house. They've got, camera, editing bays, everything's in house. So they don't have to send anything out. They don't have to employ anybody to package, what they put out there. So it's a very tight knit operation. He's learned a lot over the past 19 years or whatever it is. And he's still enjoying it, and he's still having fun, and he's on top of the world with it. So it was an honor and a privilege to go there and see some of the guys that have been there for so long, and just a little bit of prep for the future. I think I'm going to be throwing some paint on that Coronet. So see me at Graveyard Carz in the paint booth, all jumbled up, man. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. We should talk to Warman again. We should have him back on the show and kind of catch up with him, maybe sometime between now and before SEMA, before things get hectic for that as well.
I don't know what he's getting. I don't know what he's getting done for SEMA. He may even not be building a car right now for that specific event, but it's amazing how busy they are. It truly is. It's amazing how many people out there want these cars.
And how's he doing with staff? Because we've talked in the past about so many shops struggling to hire people, somebody who's good. Is he training people? He must be training people.
He is, but he's not. I mean, the painter has his son in there. Okay. He's handing it down to him. But I think that's where the problem lies. The problem lies within the ability to staff at the level that you have the staff right now, because at the end of the day, when a car is sent out, it's got your name on it. And can you find the people that are qualified, that hold, that are perfectionists like Mark Warman is, to where he doesn't have to oversee everything? And that's really tough. It's really tough to find those kind of people. So I think that's the problem right now, is the quality control is so high that it's tough to just bring a normal person in and rely upon their ability to keep that upper echelon intact. So I think that's the problem. Obviously, they could pump more cars out. You can get more property, but it's filling your garage with the people that you trust enough to put your name on it and not have to look. That's the Sox car that we were.
Yeah, we're just seeing it in the back in the video. We're just
Yeah, that was a beautiful car. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable. So, but it's a great close knit group of guys. But like I said, it's tough to get people in this day and age to have that high quality control without overseeing everything that they do. So I would imagine that's probably their biggest issue.
Yeah.
And COVID killed them for parts and put them behind, and just like everybody.
Oh yeah, just like everybody. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's doing well and the place is busy. I've always liked I like Mark and I liked what he was doing over there. And it's tough to do the TV stuff and build quality cars at the same time. And like you said, probably the way to do it is you have to have everything in house. You have to basically have the production company and the shop. It's two businesses side by side under one roof.
What's so funny is that, at one point he and I were sitting there talking, and I came to the realization that, I guess it was a good God, it was 15 or 13, whatever amount of years ago it was. We never would have had the conversation that we had these last couple of days, and he never would have built the car that he's building for me. Well, that he's helping build for me, because it just wasn't one of those things that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now he understands where the market's going, and he understands these cars more than anybody. And if you can refine them and update them, then, it's another option. I don't know.
Look, sometimes you don't want to do the same bit again and again and again, right?
Well, that, and also
over time you want to mix it up.
And sometimes you don't have a car that's worth putting $100,000 of restoration in, because it's an original 318 3-speed or 4-speed on the column car, whatever the hell it is. Yeah. It's not worth that much anyway. So I think that spurred the movement. Well, that and a number of other things of people stripping them out and making like G machines out of them, right?
Yeah.
Good luck finding a 318 convertible CUDA or Challenger right now, because the 318s were all pulled out and Hemis were put in. So they're tribute cars or they're whatever cars. So now it's kind of funny, because you look back and those cars weren't worth shit. And now good luck finding one, and one's probably worth a hell of a lot of money. The 340 convertible.
Yeah.
That thing's probably bringing rain. 10 years ago, nobody would have wanted that car. I mean, some people would, but not like they do now. So supply and demand, and what people do with them. And it's a cool deal.
Adam Carolla years ago, when we first had met the Ring brothers, he had a Lamborghini 400 GT, just a shell of a car. And it really wasn't worth much at all. And he was like, well, we could put this thing back together. He's like, I should send it to the Ring brothers and have them do it. And they were like, yes, we want to do it. That would be fantastic. And then the values of those cars started to kind of take off.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, maybe it was good that we didn't do that, because now they're worth a lot of money. And then we just got back from Car Week, and he's like, maybe we should think about that again, because now all these,
yes.
that Superleggera company and Evoluto and the Singers. And he's like, if you do it right, and you have to do it with the right engine, like the Lamborghini, you can't LS swap it, right? You can't do that. But if you did it right and said, hey, Ring brothers, make a one-off version of the 400 GT
with the original lineage.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, then all of a sudden it might be worth even more than what it was. So it kind of ebbs and flows. He was like, well, the car is cheap, so we can cut it up. And then it got expensive, so you don't want to cut it up. And now there's this popularity of these resto mods, if you will, these reimagining of these cars. So maybe it is kind of cool again. And I was like, I don't know. It's like
the landscape changes so quickly at the end. In the end, it's just about life's short, man. Right?
Yeah.
Life's short. And forget following the trends. Set your own fucking trend.
That's what I was telling him. I said,
You know?
you've owned several of these cars, the Lamborghini 350, the 400. If you're really that concerned about it, then have two of them if that's your thing. Like I this red Mustang Cobra behind me, I I I started cutting up this car, building it for SEMA, and then redoing it, and then Cobra prices started to really go up. And for a minute there, I was like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have done all this to the car because now it's going up in value. But then I was like, screw it. It's my car. I like what I did with it. It's fun.
Don't react to the market. Do what you want.
I bought the
That's
SAC
what I've
car.
found, you know?
Yeah, I bought the SAC car because it was low miles and it was all original. And honestly, I never drove it because I thought it because I couldn't do anything with it. And I was like, I just and it just kind of made me sad to sit there and go, I just want to drive that car so much.
Yeah.
You know, so I sold it. And then this car, I'm gonna finish it and I'm gonna drive it. By the way, a friend came over and he has a real 93 Cobra as well with some mods and a Coyote swap. And it is fantastic.
Exactly. That's the point.
He's got a whole collection of some of the rarest ones out there, especially the Fox bodies, Celine SA10s and stuff. And he's like, this is the only one he really drives and enjoys. It's got this great 6-speed, Coyote swapped, you know, the air works, you know, sound system's good, and it sounds great. And he's like, he came down from Canada and brought the car here. He brought the car here, towed it down, left it in my garage, went back, got his family, came back, and they just stayed in town for a month, rented a house and stayed in town for a month. And he's got like his Tahoe or whatever to drive around in. But then he left his Cobra here just so he can have it in town and drive it for, you know, every day for a month and just have fun. And now he's just like, I miss driving this car so much. I'm so glad I got this car, and he's enjoying it. And then he can go home and, you know, pull the plastic bubble off of the ones, you know,
and look at the other ones.
Yeah.
But again, you have to be very lucky to be in this situation. The best way to be a collector is to have collectible cars, but then have ones like it that you can actually take out and beat the shit out of and have fun. Because then you don't feel guilty about walking in your garage and looking at that car that you know is worth a lot of money and you love it, but you can't drive it because you're going to decrease the value. So why not just build one like it and go out and have fun?
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can do that, right? But I mean, that's what I've found is the best way to satiate both sides of a collector, right? You know, a collector and an enthusiast. I mean, what's the definition? But I mean, in the end, if you can't take a car out and really enjoy it and you talk it up and you love that car so much, but you don't have the ability to take it out because you'll cross that line, it sucks, you know. And the older you get, the more you realize that time's short. And if you revere that car so much, then take the damn thing out and drive the shit out.
Right. If any part of this is not making you happy, then just eliminate that part of it. Like, again, I had the SAC car. I love that car. I was more depressed watching it and not being able to drive it than anything. So sold it.
Yeah. No question. I mean, and the older you get, the more you realize that's just the case.
Yeah.
You just got to act on it. You got to do it and have fun.
And by the way, I was sitting here and I was, you know, and I was paying for storage and, you know, square footage and insurance. And I was like, it's fine. Listen, maybe they blow up and they're worth a ton of money years from now. But I was never really the person to go where I would just go, oh, I should have never sold that one, because at the time when I sold it was the right time to sell it. So it's done. It's over. If that car doubles in value, I don't care. Yeah. I'll find something else. Like, it's, you know.
So before we get off, and I've had this conversation, and we've had this conversation many a time before, but you know, 10 years ago, as manufacturers, we were in a different situation that we're in now. I'm the Dodge guy. You're the Ford guy. Everybody was going electric. Dodge was giving the middle finger to everybody with the big Hellcat.
Yeah.
And riding that wave. And now, 10 years later, it seems as it's completely been flipped.
Yeah, it's the opposite. They're heading that direction.
from Ford and what they're looking to do in the future, and then with Corvette, Chevy and the Vet with that 1,069 horsepower motor, and then
Yeah.
what they're coming out with, and then you look at Dodge and you go to Roadkill and you see the new Daytona, and there's no options for it to be anything other than a full EV. And it did not draw much attention there by any stretch of the imagination. And I only bring this up because did you see the news about, Walter P. Chrysler, one of his descendants, I think it was his grandson, is getting this petition. They're trying to raise money to buy it back from Stellantis.
I didn't know. I didn't see that. That's interesting.
It's very interesting
Yeah.
because if you got somebody leading the charge, that's the guy to do it. And he's talking about listening to the customers and carrying on the legacy, which is seemingly not what's being done right now. So I am extremely excited, curious, reserved, because you don't want to get your hopes up, but I think that's a pretty big bit of news.
Yeah. So he wants to somehow take control of the brand or buy it or something. Yeah. I imagine that's going to require a major backers.
No question. But we're talking legacy here. So
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with finding those people. But how much are they going to have to raise, and is it realistic, and in a
Yeah.
short
Now,
period of time, and will they sell it? So
but
and
what?
you see all the stuff about the EV plants being shut down. That was a little bit of news this
Yeah.
morning. So you just wonder, you wonder what's going to happen to the brand, because you got guys like me that love it to the end of the earth. But right now, it's really hard to get behind it, considering where they are and where seemingly they're going.
Now, this guy, I think, is talking about specifically Chrysler, because Chrysler's been sort of a closed up brand. And he's saying there's a 100th anniversary of Chrysler coming up. He wanted to sort of acquire the IP around that brand. He's
Mm-hmm.
not really talking about an entire company and employees and factories and everything. He's just saying there's something we can do with this brand
Mm-hmm.
if we can acquire it. Yeah, because, I don't know how many billions of dollars you would need to acquire
Yeah.
a branch of the car company. Yeah, listen, it's an interesting idea. Uh, if I was
If nothing else, it's going to get everybody to come out of the woodworks and voice their opinion.
right, it gets a conversation going, and for Stellantis to go, well, listen, we shut down Chrysler. We don't know if that's a permanent thing. We're not going to. Maybe they don't want to sell him this, but go pitch me what you want to do with it, and I'll license it to you, and you can move forward. Like, did you raise the money? Can you raise the money? What's your pitch? Like when Willow Springs was going up for sale, they were taking proposals going, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
It's not just the highest dollar amount. It's, what are you going to do? And by the way, up in Monterey, I talked to a couple of people that had submitted pitches.
Yeah.
Some very interesting companies that submitted pitches. And then
Do you have any
ultimately, I
idea
think
where it's at right now?
I don't know where it's at. I imagine they're still I don't know if they're accepting any more proposals at this point. It could be open-ended, but I'm sure they're reviewing proposals and figuring out what's going to be the best course of action.
Yeah.
And the sellers of that track probably got enough proposals. I say enough, it could be 5, I don't know, with vastly different thoughts on what to do with the track, that they're thinking going, oh, where do we see the future of this? Do we have some say in it?
Mm-hmm.
When we sell it, do we sell it to the right group? But
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, maybe Stellantis just needs to think about licensing out Chrysler. It's income for them for something that they're not using.
And something that would actually make money.
Yeah, and then another company could probably roll with it. But
because it's not a Hornet, it's not a optionless EV that tries to carry on the lineage of a Daytona Charger.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Okay, what do you say? We're gonna wrap things up.
Yes, I have to go. Yes, prepare to be a Muay Thai fighter after I haven't done it for 3 years, so I can go do a promotional segment. So yeah, I look forward to next week.
Right on.
Hopefully I'll be a little bit more awake.
Uh, yeah. All right. Have a good time. Have a good trip. And then thanks, guys, for listening. Until next time, keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.